You'd think these things would connect a little faster now, but okay. I think we're good now. All right. Welcome to another episode of Cannabis Marketing Live. I am your host, Jake Litke, the CEO of Media Gel, and today I am super happy to chat with Jocelyn Sheltraw, who I've known for quite a while. We worked together in the past before cannabis was a thing, really, in the ad tech days. And then, of course, I think many people know who Jocelyn is. Also was at Headset for quite a while and now is running Budist, which is what we're going to talk about today. Welcome, Jocelyn.
Thank you. I'm so excited because yeah, we've known each other for what, probably 15 years at this point,
Yeah.
and there's few of us in the industry that have seen like the evolution of just the birth of another industry and just how an industry is born and comes to market. And we've had that luxury of seeing this now and being a part of two industries since their birth. So super excited to talk
Yeah.
about all that.
I like the optimism of calling it a luxury to go through all of the learnings, some of which were more painful than others. All right. So let's talk about Budist. It's an app. And I remember talking to you about Buddhist when you were kind of conceiving the idea. I think you were in Tahoe, maybe at the time. Um,
About right.
so so now you're live. The app's out. When did the app officially launch?
Okay, well, for those who aren't familiar, the simplest way to explain Buddhist, it's a lot of people are dubbing it the wine spectator of cannabis. And
Mhm.
so we launched it actually, funny enough, and you'll appreciate this more than anyone. So the app officially launched, which is the first thing that we launched with as a company. It launched in December of 2023 and it went live on Apple and Google on my birthday, oddly enough. Like
All
both
right.
of them pushed that live on my birthday. Though I have heard from several other friends, they're like, yeah, people at both Apple and Google will do that if they notice that your birthday is close to it. They'll try to do those little serendipitous moments, which is, as founders, like you're always looking for those moments of just like serendipity that you're on the right track. So for us, just kind of coming out and having it launch on my birthday was just really exciting. But yeah, that was December of 2023. And we launched with the app, which is a rating and review app. If you haven't checked it out, it's really, really awesome. It's just beautifully designed. And we launched with a team of 30 critics here in California, some incredible experts, people who've been out sharing their expertise on different product categories, consuming for different reasons. And essentially, what we're trying to do is this is really our first rating and review app for the industry. And if you think about, how consumers find out about products, it's really hard at this point, right? We've got Leafly, we've got Weed Maps, we've got, publications, whether it's Fat Nugs or Cannabis Now, but having like a true dedicated home and a place where people can go learn from other people, share their own expertise on products, really be a part of a culture that's celebrating product appreciation. That was the idea behind Buddist. And so we launched in December of 2023 with the app. And then we did what you have to do as a startup founder. You take, a couple months beta testing the app out, making sure you work through all the kinks. And we got, we had reviews that were already being populated, our team of 30 critics. And then what happened is in March of 2024, we had an incredible opportunity where we were partnering with the state fair and the Embark team to launch the very first, the California Cannabis Awards, which is the first state sanctioned cannabis competition. And, the team at Embark had been seeing what we're building with Buddhist, and they're like, hey, we see you've got this team of critics. We see you guys have this methodology, standardized way of assessing each product category. Let's partner, put that to good use, and have you guys serve as the team of judges and help us with the California State Fair Cannabis Awards. So that was really our coming out, was March of 2024. And since then, we've really evolved from just being a rating and review platform to really being a home and a community that's not just doing product reviews and ratings, but we've got events. We do events that are modeled after wine tastings, where we're guiding people through a whole tasting of all different kinds of products, led by our team of Buddhists. And then we do competitions. We're really inspired as a whole. Like the reason we launched Budist was taking a page from how other industries that have really connoisseur products that are very nuanced products, how do they build a culture where people are appreciating those products and really understanding quality? And if you look at that in wine or beer or coffee, it really was a combination of what we're trying to do at Budist, which is a rating and review platform, competitions that are professionalizing the industry, events where people can go learn about those products, and then of course through, publishing other long form content like producer profiles and getting into appellation, terroir, things like that. So it's a lot. That's kind of a mouthful, but that's why it's like taking a page from wine, the wine spectator of cannabis seems to be what really resonates with our industry.
Yeah, and so to that, um, you have a rating system that's similar to Wine Spectator, right? It's 100 points
Yes.
system.
Yeah,
Um,
it's actually just for people to be aware. Yeah, I mean, the 100-point system is a globally recognized system that wine, coffee, beer, chocolate, all of them use this same exact 100-point system, which was started in the early 80s by Robert Parker, who founded the Wine Advocate. And it was a really easy way for consumers and for critics to objectively assess quality, and then for the consumer to understand that quality.
Now, I think most people, well, anyone who's bought wine before, whether it's at the grocery store or a wine shop, you'll see some bottles that say 94 points, Wine Spectator or whatever. Is it like how does the curve tend to go? Like, are there actually any products that are like 30 points? Like, does anything get really rated at? Because it never seems like it's really 100, somewhere between like 80 and 100, right? It's
Yes. Very good question. We get asked this a lot, actually. No, so the 100-point system starts at 70 and it goes 70 to 100. And the way that we kind of explain that is it's just like when you're in grade school, right? It's you're getting a C and above is passing. Other than that, it's just not even considered passing. So for us on the app, and again, this is the same 100-point system. So it's 70 to 100. You won't see anything less than that. And for us, we will publish any review. It doesn't matter the score will be found in the app. But the ones that we really highlight, it's just like anything. You really want to highlight kind of quality and drawing attention to those quality producers, but still giving people the awareness and the understanding of products that may fall within that. And they need that access to information on the quality of those products.
and so you've got your review panel. You say there's 30 of them?
In California, we've got a group of 30, what we refer to as Buddists or a critic. But really, that means that they've been trained on we have an editorial guideline that we follow. We have a very standardized way of assessing each category and then how we write about that and translate that to the consumer. So if you read any of the reviews, whether on the app or on our website, consumers will see these are 4, 5, 6 paragraph reviews oftentimes that are really going into all of the key attributes that we assess in a product. So when we're assessing, regardless of what product category it is, if it's flower or concentrates or vapes, pre-rolls, etc., we're always looking at really the 4 key attributes, which are the aroma, the appearance, the flavor, and of course the effect. And so we're writing about that in a really standardized way. And one of the things or the companies that we're really inspired by is, you're a big traveler, so I'm assuming you use things like TripAdvisor or at least going to Google and reading reviews there. But we often use TripAdvisor as a really great example of a company that we're inspired by and a model that we're trying to follow because when you go to TripAdvisor, you know that you're going to be able to get a review on is that hotel kid friendly? Is that hotel a party hotel? People aren't going into TripAdvisor and writing long stories about their own personal trip. They're going in and they're saying, this was a great hotel for me if I have kids. It had an open buffet or whatever it may be, but people are really giving specifics in a pay it forward mentality where they're trying to help other people. And TripAdvisor was really specific in creating that ethos. Their CEO has talked openly about that over the years, that is that pay it forward mentality that really it provided the value to consumers because people are getting information that they really need to know. So we're really inspired by that. That's part of the ethos that we have at Budist is very much a pay it forward mentality. We're trying to help other people figure out if these products could be valuable for them in their lives and trying to give them the necessary information to make that decision versus it being about us as, enthusiasts and kind of waxing on, waxing off about our personal expertise. That's not what this is about. This is about being Sherpas to guide new consumers into cannabis and helping them appreciate the plant just like we do.
Okay. Now, so you've got, you have your expert advisors or critics or Buddists or whatever. I kind of like I never really thought about it, but Trip Advisor is not, it's not called Trip Critic. It's called Trip Advisor, right? So that does actually make sense. Do you also have user generated
Yeah,
content?
it's like so the app is kind of like Rotten Tomatoes. That's another company that we were really inspired by. And just for me and for you as well, it's like coming from the birth of mobile, like I've used all of these different apps. I've watched the evolution of so many different apps and have worked with them. And so just seeing and being a consumer of these apps myself, like I don't watch a movie if without going and reading the reviews on TripAdvisor. And for me personally, I tend to agree with more of the critic scores. But if I know that it's a film that I'm going to watch that might be something that's more of like a rom-com or a comedy, then generally I'm probably going to fall more in line with the consumer scores
Mhm.
because I'm not having a high expectation that this is going to be a film that's of, an Academy Award winning film. So then I'll see that I'm a little bit more aligned with that consumer rating. So we're following the same suit, same process where any consumer can come into the app, create their own profile, and they can start reviewing products, sharing their expertise as well, giving their recommendations. So it has both the critic score and the community score, which you'll see aggregated on each product page. And again, just kind of like Rotten Tomatoes. And it's again using the 100-point system. So consumers will use that as well.
Okay. And how has it been from a moderation perspective? Anytime you let the general public start writing things, there's some amount of moderation that probably needs to happen. Just mostly out of curiosity, what has that experience been like?
Surprisingly, there we haven't had any challenges or issues at scale whatsoever. A handful of things here and there where people will use platforms like this because we're so limited in the platforms that we have in cannabis that we've had a few people coming in and trying to sell illicit drugs on the platform
Oh,
and
yeah.
using it in those ways that we've had to remove those. But no, overall, it's been surprisingly like people, I think because of the ethos we set and because of the design of the app and the user experience, it's not really facilitating those kinds of interactions. And again, just because of that ethos, people they're following suit. I think we get a lot of support because it's just this is something that's really new and needed for our industry. And I think that's what's different from, like I've been a 15-year cannabis enthusiast. I've used all of the platforms to find information for myself. And personally, I'm a huge fan of Leafly. Leafly was one of the reasons and ways that I came into the industry because, as you know, the founders of Headset founded Leafly together. So I've
Yep.
been following that whole journey. And I think one of the differences in our industry right now is that like Leafly is a strain database at its core, right? And I'm not saying this to compare. I'm trying to make a point of that as consumers and as enthusiasts, it's really important that we have a dedicated home where we're talking about products, not just about the strain, not about where I can find these products, but what is my experience with these products and who's the person that's giving me this review or this recommendation, because then I know how much weight I want to put into that. So we just haven't had this as an industry yet. And if you again look at other industries like wine, they've got a bevy of publications, whether that's Wine Spectator or Wine Advocate, but then they have apps like Vivino, like Delectable, where consumers and enthusiasts can go in and really share. And the end result of that, or using another example in food, like here's the perfect example that I like to use is think about our world before Yelp. Yelp actually had a major impact on the culture of the foodie because if you think about prior to Yelp, which launched in 2004 here in San Francisco, prior to Yelp, the way consumers really had an appreciation of food or learned about what restaurants they wanted to go to was through Michelin, through Zagat, through the individual critic that was writing for the New York Times, the LA Times, whatever publication. But what Yelp did is Yelp really democratized the culture of the foodie because then, sure enough, what happens is that you have consumers that are coming in and they're going to restaurants, they're reviewing restaurants, they're providing their expertise. And it creates this whole culture of food appreciation because then other people are a part of that. So it's less siloed to just the industry. So something like Yelp, then really since that point, 2004, it just opened up our whole world and truly created this culture of the foodie because now all of us get to be a part of that process. So that's what we're trying to do is really jumpstart that culture of cannabis product appreciation.
Yeah, that makes sense. I do. I use Yelp quite a bit when I'm traveling to find, restaurants. Specifically, I like the fact that you can filter by what's open also is very helpful.
Exactly. Yep.
Um, but another good resource for travel that I've found is actually Reddit.
Hmm.
Specifically, there's going to be for any given city, there's usually a couple of subreddits that are dedicated to that city, and you have people that have asked questions. I used it a lot when I was in Japan recently. It's a good resource.
Yep. Yep. Oh,
Um,
yeah.
okay, so you've got and you don't I called it an app, but it's really not an app. An app is like one surface of what you're doing. What is the breakdown of people using the app versus people using the website?
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, across all of the core platforms, we like to say platform because our core properties that we have at Buddhist, it's the app, it's our website, which the website is our website's B2B. And that's just, in the startup process, like that's who we're first targeting is our community, getting buy-in from our community and our industry. And then once you have enough of an audience there, then you can really switch that to being a consumer facing publication or app or website or whatever it is that you are. So we're following suit to that process. So right now, the website that has been growing significantly for us, which has been really exciting to see, I think in part through the MJ Bowl and what we're doing there, but also now publishing a lot of reviews on our website. So I share that because we're going to switch our website and start doing more consumer facing content in the new year. But it's our app that's really driving consumers. The website is very business focused. Then outside of that, the other platforms that we have, and again, what we're trying to do is it's events and it's really taking the experience of what you're reading online and translating that to an offline environment where people can put that practice into effect. And what I mean by that is that, we host a bunch of what we call Buddhist sessions, or we do all kinds of different events, small, medium, and large. We do small tasting events that are like 20-person events where we will walk through a guided tasting that goes through a handful of producers in a category. So let's say flower. And we do these at consumption lounges. We do them in LA as well as up here in the Bay Area. And essentially, what we're doing is we're just guiding people through this tasting and helping them explore and understand all the nuances of the product, just like we're translating in from the review on the website. And what it does is it creates an environment where people are able to come together and calibrate, which is a really important part of learning about just different cannabis products and what our experience may be with them. You have to discuss this with other people to truly just get into the culture connoisseurship side, not as much if you're consuming for a medical reason, which is still important there. But when we're talking about just kind of connoisseurship, which is where we've really focused in our inroad with Buddhist, you really need to create those environments that people can come together and learn and connect. And so that's why the events have been so important for us because it translates what we're doing in our digital forums and bringing that to life. And then, of course, the competitions, which we can talk about, which are just really important for the evolution of our industry and recognizing quality producers and helping consumers understand what quality is. And so, yeah.
That's great. So on the competitions, are you like wine spectator or whatever? Do people get little medals like the silver or the gold circle or whatever? Like I know beer and wine has that, right?
Yeah, so every competition's a little bit different. So for the California State Fair, all of them give out awards, and this isn't just for what we're doing at Buddhist, but you'll get your trophy, which is just critical because the reason the trophy is so critical or whatever kind of award it is, it's because when you use that to market as a brand, it's what's referred to as a quality signal in the market. So
Mhm.
we've all been into a wine retailer or a grocery store where you see on the shelf the award-winning olive oil that says this is a triple gold award-winning olive oil, and it
Yep.
has the medal on there, it has that recognition on there. Or in wine, this is a 99 point wine rated by this product in this publication. Those are quality signals, which for consumers give them really quick information as so they can make a quick decision. You see that gold medal, okay, that signifies quality. Well, there's been a lot of tests and studies that have been done on this where they've shown, especially in wine, that if you have a quality signal, whether it's an award, whether it's the point system, if you have that on a bottle of wine on a retail shelf versus a bottle that has no quality signal, that bottle will sell 10 times the amount of the bottle without the quality signal. And why? Because consumers are looking to make quick decisions and they're looking for those signals that are going to say, yes, that's a trusted quality product. It's worth the value that you're going to pay for it. So we just don't have those really. That's kind of what we're trying to start through what we're doing with Budist. And the competitions are critical to that because that's the quality signal. When you see that golden bear as award winner from the California State Fair, that carries a lot of weight. Like in the wine industry, because the California State Fair has a competition for wine, beer, olive oil, cheese, and these are recognized awards on a national level. Like, I don't know if you've been to any wineries just, around the Bay Area or how much of a wine fan you are, but if any of those wineries win a Golden Bear, that thing is proudly displayed front and center. And same thing if they're an olive oil or cheese producer. So it's just really important to have those competitions to really help kind of set that foundation for our industry to educate consumers on quality.
Yeah, I have many times been looking at a wall of like, wines and not even just looking at me like, okay, I mean, the one with the label that says, 94 points or something like I'll grab that, right? Because it's a shortcut.
Yeah.
And I think cannabis is, I don't even know if there's what other categories there are of retail spaces where you have so many product choices inside of such a small physical area. You can have a shop that's like 400 square feet and has like 1,000 SKUs in it. And you're looking at, and the packaging is wildly unique, in between, different. So it's very difficult for anyone who's not like living in this world to walk into a dispensary. So a lot of people will rely on the bud tender.
Yeah.
Um, but that's a highly subjective opinion, right? From an individual, and you don't necessarily know what's going into that recommendation because there could be other marketing things going on. Um,
Yeah.
but
Well, and often it's, the training in our industry, because this is so new, it's often very limited. And especially if you look at on the retail side with bud tenders, some of these trainings, there's several different programs out there, whether that's the Ganchier program, there's the Trichomes Institute, there's a bunch of different training programs that will help bud tenders specifically become more knowledgeable in not just how to sell, but really like the art, service, and science of helping consumers and guiding them through. But those programs can be very costly. And so for the retailer, we're not seeing like in the wine industry where you see a sommelier working in a wine retail store. You see them working in a restaurant. That is just now starting to really happen in our industry. And thankfully, we have programs like the Ganchier program, which will now be going into its fifth cohort, which I went through that program and it was just an incredible amount of learnings and just I'm so grateful for that experience. But going through that program and understanding just even as a 15-year enthusiast who's been working in the industry for the past almost 8 years, it really wasn't until going through the program that even for me that I really started to have this level of knowledge where I feel comfortable giving a recommendation to someone else. So it's just one of those things in our industry right now where we are so new, we're so early that this education is just now really starting to be developed at scale. And again, looking back to the wine industry, that was a 40-year arc before consumers really began to appreciate wine. And it took all of those different programs, it took all of those different platforms to really help consumers. And so it all comes back to education. Like we need more education for consumers to appreciate all of these wonderful products that are being created.
yeah, and so how do you handle, you mentioned the four, look, aroma, but experience, right? I think experience is probably the most challenging one because everyone has a different endocannabinoid system. People respond differently to different kinds of products. You have drift in strains, so to speak, what people think is a strain. And so how do you overcome that when you're trying to educate people and you have someone who's tasted or sampled a product and they're writing about it, but their experience is going to be potentially different from another person?
Yep. Yep. This is one of the primary reasons and problems that we're trying to solve with the app and just what we're doing in general. But if you go into the app, we ask 5 onboarding questions in the beginning. So we're trying to understand what kind of consumer are you so that we can match people based on that. So if for me, for example, I'm a daily flower consumer. I like low to mid. I like high potency products as well, but it's very situational. So I go through and these 5 questions are asked to me where we then pair people based on that. So in the algorithm, then you will see similar recommendations for a similar profile as you. And then the whole idea behind this is that when we assembled this team of Buddists, of critics, we looked for a very diverse group of people, diverse in their reasons for consuming, diverse in demographics, diverse in where they live in the state, diverse in pretty much every way. If you go into the app, you're not going to see 2 people that are very similar in terms of our group of critics. There's a very big diversity there. And it's especially important when it comes to diversity of use case. We have a lot of medical consumers that are in our Buddhist crew that are having everything from endometriosis to having cancers, to having very serious stomach issues, all sorts of things. And so again, having them sharing that expertise where you can see what kind of consumer they are, you can see it lists out like if they're a daily consumer, if they're weekly, if they're an occasional consumer, what kind of products they consume. We provide all of that information in the app so that you as a consumer can decide, okay, I see this person seems similar enough to my habits, to what I'm looking for. I will then put more weight in that recommendation versus another person that maybe I'm not as connected to, or that's less of a close match for me. So that's the idea behind it, is really matching information based on who that consumer is and what they're looking for.
So the net effect of that, if I'm, browsing information, is that based on how I answered the questions, you're going to direct me towards the Buddhists that are most aligned with my profile.
Exactly. That's how the algorithm will work. And that's what you'll see, both critics and consumers.
So so for critics and consumers, so the critics is a pretty straightforward. There's a finite, a relatively small group of them in terms of the user reviews. So I look at a product, it's got a critic rating, it's got a user review rating, but inside of the users that have given it that rating, how would I know, how do you surface that? Or is it kind of invisible in terms of how you give the information to the person looking for it?
Yeah, no, it's if you go into the feed, there's a critic feed and there's a community feed. And the experience, whether you're a community member or critic, is exactly the same. You create your own profile when you come onto the app. We ask 5 questions about what kind of consumer you are. And then the algorithm will then serve you based on your answers, will then give you back those recommendations and reviews. That's what you would then see in the feed. So it's just how your feed would be populated. And then the app, it's social in a sense where, again, you're connecting with other enthusiasts within the industry, or not within the industry, within the community, within our community, and you're able to see what kind of consumer they are. So it's just served through the algorithm and what you're seeing, but nothing changes. We're not sending you a personalized recommendation. It's just the content that you're seeing within the app will be more tailored to you.
And then how many products? I mean, there's so many products, but how are you deciding, and how many do you have? Like if we look in California today and I want to start looking at products, like how many products have you profiled?
Well, in California, and this is according to Headset data, there's about 1,200, give or take, unique brands in the market. And then within those unique brands, there's, hundreds and thousands of products in aggregate. In New York, which we haven't yet launched New York, but that is coming as a part of our entry into New York with the MJ Bowl. New York has 500 brands, give or take, in the market, thousands of products in aggregate. So for us launching here in California, the way that we went about this is, number one, we wanted to make sure when we first launched that we had a very diverse group of brands. This isn't just about connoisseur products. This isn't just about the top quality products. This is about quality when it comes to every price point and every type of product. So we tried to assemble upon launch. We had 100 brands. As we were out just from an idea stage, I went around and let probably had conversations with 1 to 200 different brands and saying, this is what we're building for the industry. Do you guys want to be a part of this? If so, here's how it works. You provide us products, we provide that to our critics, we pay them to review it. We then distribute that content through our channels. So when we were launching, we had a few hundred brands that were just a part of the launch pre even having a product out in market. So that was really exciting, was a great proof point that this was just really necessary. Now at this point, thousands of reviews in the platform. In terms of how many in California, well over half of the market in terms of brands are on the platform. The brands we doesn't have to create their profile. We do that. One of the challenges in our industry, as you know very well, is that having access to a clean database is really hard, and to pull in all of that information in real time to know when new products are hitting the market. This is an industry-wide problem. So for us at Budist, the way that we're solving it is taking a more curated approach. So it's highlighting the brands that we know are active in market, that have a vast product landscape, that are falling into, brands, a more of high-end connoisseur brands. It really like spans the gamut. But what we're looking for is brands in any price point that are focused on quality. And then from the consumer side, they can review whatever they want. That's more just our focus. But at this point is taking a more curated approach.
That makes sense. Um, what is the what are some data? This is where I like my ears perk up because I'm a data person. You are seeing a combination of user-generated content, you have your expert reviews. Um, what's going on like under the hood that you're seeing that's interesting from a like a trend perspective?
Um, yeah, I mean, it's just more broadly, it's just a lot of some of the products that we see that have the greatest, like, that have the longest form reviews, that tend to go into the most detail. It does tend to be products at this point that are connoisseur products that really have a story to tell, or that people are just very passionate by those brands. So that's tend to what we see in terms of reviews. It's people that are really coming in that want to share about a producer or share about that product because, again, they think that product is going to be helpful to someone's life, or they think that producer really needs that recognition. So that's what we're seeing to start in terms of a data and a trend there. I mean, I don't know. Let me think about that a little bit more
Yeah, well,
specifically.
I can, that was a vague question. So, maybe a, a better question would be with the consumers, people that are reading the reviews, what is like the engagement like? How long are they spending more or less time than you thought they would? Has that been changing at all? Like, I know, for example, Leafly is a good example. I happen because I know the Leafly team as well. So I know that sometimes people will read like 15 different reviews back to back to back of strains, in this case, not products. What does that look like for your users?
It's all across the board. Especially because the whole ethos of what we're trying to do is really about people, whatever their use case, use case, meaning are they consuming for a medical reason, or they a consumer that's an enthusiast that really wants to just explore more from a connoisseur perspective. They're two very different use cases, and so we will certainly see differences in those consumers engaging with the platform. What I mean by that is if you're a medical consumer and you're looking for a product that's specifically helping treat sleep or anxiety or whatever it may be, then just by nature, you're going to be reviewing a lot of different products or going through and reading reviews. That consumer will probably spend more time reading the long form reviews because they're looking for very specific information. If you're a consumer that's just coming in and just to explore and see, all right, well, what is this particular critic saying? I see them reviewing a lot of flower. I see that they like, sun-grown. What are they saying about these producers? And then they might go down the rabbit hole and exploring a bunch of different reviews from that critic. It's just really across the board because by nature, the ethos of the platform and how we've set it up, it's very unique to each individual experience, whether you're looking for a medical or more just recreational kind of review. So there's certainly not like a one size fits all. It's just based on the behavior of what that person's looking for.
That makes sense. Now, do you have any examples, even if somewhat anecdotal, of brands getting like the exposure of like a positive review or a high rating having like a real impact on their brand?
Yes. all the time. There's nothing that makes me happier than getting a text from a brand that's saying, "Hey, I used your shelf talker at this trade show or at this event, and it helped me sell through the product because I had a story to go tell around the product." So again, it's like that's the reason it's called a shelf talker. And if people aren't familiar with a shelf talker, I mean, go into any retail store and you will see whether it's the point or the award, whatever that is, you will see a call out on the shelf highlighting that product. It's called a shelf talker because it's meant to drive conversation. So when a brand is reviewed on Budist and they have a good score, then they can come to us and we can print out those shelf talkers for them. They can display that on their booth. They can display that at an event. They can display it on their website, wherever they're marketing to consumers. And it is meant to drive conversation. So then it's helping them say, hey, this product won a Golden Bear at the California State Fair, which is the first national cannabis competition. This product was reviewed by the team at Budist. It was reviewed by Caleb Chen, who's known as the highest critic. He's reviewed hundreds of different flower cultivars, expert in the industry. He gave this a 96 points and he said, et cetera, A, B, and C. So it really helps tell the brand's story. And so we hear this on a regular basis that it's doing just that for the brands. And again, we just don't have a lot of other quality signals in the market that are helping brands differentiate. I mean, just think about if you're a flower producer, how are you differentiating yourself from the retail shelf when there's, X number dozens of flower producers, maybe with a similar cultivation practice, maybe even in a similar region or terroir? How do you differentiate yourself on a retail shelf when consumers are making a very quick judgment? It's a very, very hard thing to do. And this just gives brands a much easier way to story tell and to stand out.
Yeah, that's great. Have you discovered any products yourself personally that you would have maybe not encountered as like, because it came through review and you saw someone and you're like, oh, that sounds like an interesting product. I want to try that
All the time. All
all
the
the
time, all the time.
time.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that's because as you're going through the app and you see, like, oh, again, like when you see the point and you're like, oh, okay, whoa, that's, 98 points. Okay. I'm somewhat familiar with that producer. I know that individual. All right. Let me see what they have to say. I'm discovering new products all the time. And for me, also, again, as a longtime enthusiast and someone who's gone through the Ganchier program, for me, it's really interesting to calibrate and to see, like, okay, I've tried that product, but what is this person saying about it? Is what my experience, is it similar to what they experienced? Because then that tells me a lot about my own level of understanding of the plant and my palate. So it really gives me a way to just understand like the quality of that product from other people's perspectives, which I think is such an important part of cannabis. It really is that community kind of calibration and understanding from other people, because this is so new for us that we kind of have to learn and evolve together as a community. And that's the stage I think that we're at in the industry. And that's the stage that Budist is at and kind of the pain point that it's solving. It's this, we're only a year and a half old in terms of this being live in the market. So this thing
Right.
is just getting going. What it looks like today is going to look very different than what it looks like a year from now. Because as we have more people coming in and contributing, then we're able to do a lot more with all of that information, help serving people better recommendations and reviews. And so for me, like at the start, this is very much about, not everyone wants to read a long form product review. Like we know that a lot, especially in this day and age, we're in an attention economy. So for us, when we're starting it off with long form reviews that maybe less people might be interested in reading, but it's a part of the process of really building that culture of connoisseurship and getting more people interested in this. And then as it grows, we'll be able to serve people through our platform in different ways.
That's great. Now, do you have sponsors or like how do you support the platform itself, right?
Mhm.
Anything, it costs money to run a business. So, are you in advertising? How do you?
Yeah, so essentially the way that it works is that, yeah, I mean, we're marketers. We're helping tell the brand tell their story. But the
Yeah.
way that it works is that we review any brand or any product that's in the licensed market on the platform. And that's just free for brands to do. We will review up to a certain amount of products for brands for free. But what happens is if the brand gets or the product gets a good score, then they can boost that. We can help draw more attention to that product by highlighting it through boosted reviews, by highlighting it in our events, which brands can then sponsor to be a part of that event. So it's ultimately the brand is our core customer, and what we're providing to them is ways to get in front of our audience, which is enthusiasts, which is, industry professionals, which is new consumers that are looking for, different product information. We can help really highlight that great review through boosted content, through featured brand profiles. If you go on our website, you can see we do a bunch of featured profiles where it's a very standardized way of telling the brand story. The people, the products, and the place is simply put. And so that's essentially what we're doing. And then again, doing this on events and then through competitions, we have sponsors there in terms of the devices. And that's a big part of what we're trying to do at Budist is standardize and professionalize the assessment process. And the tools and the accessories that we use as judges are critical to that process because it's what will help bring out the most of that product, the fullest expression of the plant. And so those tools are critical to that. So we do have opportunities for those devices and accessories to take part in our events, to sponsor our events, and same thing for us to help them tell their story, which if you look at our Instagram, you'll see we've done a series of videos that are being published every day now as we're in the MJ Bowl about to enter the judging process. You can learn more about those devices and the accessories that we're using. There's videos that you'll see on our Instagram as well as published on our YouTube and LinkedIn that talk about why are we using those devices? What makes that device unique? And really helping, again, tell that device's story.
Yeah, that makes sense. So very similar to Yelp, for example, right? So I know with Yelp, my wife has a photography studio. She gets a lot of her business from Yelp. You have the premium listing or whatever, which you pay a little bit for, and that allows you to customize your carousel or whatever. And then you can basically have your reviews be sponsored, right?
Yes.
Or boosted rather.
Yep,
Yeah.
exactly.
And it does work. So
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely. Yes, it does. We hear a lot of great feedback on it.
Yeah. So you mentioned the MJ Bowl and events in general. Let's talk a little bit about that because that's coming up soon.
Yep. Yeah, so we're really excited about the MJ Bowl. For those that aren't familiar, this is in partnership with MJ Biz. And this is MJ Biz's first cannabis competition. And for those not familiar, MJ Biz has been around for 14 years. It's the longest running trade show in our industry. And aside from that, it's also a top 10 largest trade show in the United States. It gets
Really?
20,000 people every year that go to Vegas. We always get to hang out there.
Yeah.
And so for MJ Biz, they haven't had a competition in 10 years. And the community has been asking year over year, like, when are you guys going to have a competition? You have this incredible national platform. You've got people coming to MJ Biz from all around the world. You've got MJ Biz Daily that's been reporting on our industry for 14 years. And so, I've been friends with Emily Lewis, who's their SVP at MJ Biz, and just many of their team members over the years. And again, they saw what we did with the state fair. We've also led a lot of other competitions like Cannabis, the Head Stash Bowl, as well as the Farmers Cup, which is a regional consumer-facing competition in San Diego. And anyways, they were like, look, the community's been asking, let's partner, let's create a competition that could one day be national where we can recognize every state and then highlight the winning producers at MJ BizCon, which is really like driving as much awareness to all of these producers, highlighting quality and really pushing that narrative in our industry and more broadly in mainstream media. We just think it's really important there's so much misinformation and biased perspectives on our industry. And our thesis is that if you celebrate quality and really bring together these groups that have just been known as trusted people and companies in our industry, that we can really do a lot through amplification and driving awareness and putting out positive sentiments by coming together as a group. And so that was kind of the spirit behind it. So in building this, again, like I said, it's the first bi-coastal. So it's the best of California, the best of New York, celebrating those winners on stage at MJ BizCon. And the first place winning brands will be featured at our retail partners, which in New York, that's Gotham, which is a 4-store dispensary chain. And in California, that's the Artistry, which is a soon to be 12-store chain. And those winning brands will be featured in displays that are highlighting the MJ Bowl winners. We're going to review those products on Budist, print out the shelf talkers. So you'll see that in a dedicated section in the store. And again, that will really help highlight those brands, drive awareness to them, but just more broadly, highlight quality. That's really what's important to us here. Let's highlight these quality producers. Let's tell their story. Let's come together as groups and amplify that as much as possible.
So you've got New York and California. I feel like this is like California and France with wines. Like obviously I'm biased because I'm from California, but it will be interesting to see if New York can take a because it's a
It,
bi-coastal, but it's like
it's not head to head. No, it's celebrating the best of each state. So there's
okay.
no competition between the states. Each of the states has critics that are or judges that are based in that state that know that market. And so it's then bringing them together at MJ Biz and recognizing them. But we don't, it's just kind of our ethos. It's not about the competition in that way. It's truly about recognizing excellence, which we just think is something that is not really it's just not happening at scale in our industry, and we need to bind together as a community. If we're not going to have, federal policy changes, we view this as a way to push a national narrative despite not having policy changes. And we're doing that by using the same standardized methodology and for each of these states. So the judges will assess in the same way. They use the same scoring rubric. We're using the same tools. So it is creating that uniformity, even though these are two separate competitions in two separate states that will then be recognized at MJ BizCon in December.
I see. Oh yeah. Of course you can't actually do it not in the state that it's
Yeah,
in legally, right? So
exactly. Exactly.
that makes sense.
It's a lot of
Um,
work. Doing a competition like this is a lot of work. And even as we're having this conversation, it sounds like we're doing so many things, which we are, but they're all interconnected. At the end of the day, this is really about telling the brand story, highlighting quality, because that's what's going to help the retail shelf premiumize. And that's again what we saw in the wine industry. When consumers see a quality product, let's say 99 points reviewed by this publication, it was those activities that helped the retail shelf diversify because then consumers understood, oh, okay, I'm going to pay more for that quality, for that bottle of wine. It's clearly rated higher. This is a reputable critic and publication. I'm willing to pay 3 times the price of this bottle that doesn't have that quality. And the way that that happened in wine was through all of these different activities, the competitions, the rating and review platform. It required all of that before the shelf started to diversify and consumers would be willing to pay more for products. We just have not yet been at that point in our industry where the consumer understands that.
yeah, how do you see the breakdown for what you were calling an enthusiast? I know with wine, I forget the numbers, but it's like something like a lot, like 80% of the wine that is sold is, under $12 or something like that, right? And so you've got a small subset that is encompassing the higher end product. Um, how does that break out, at least to your knowledge in the cannabis space?
Yeah, so when we were just launching Budist, we researched every analogous industry. So we looked at exactly this. We looked what percentage of consumers is more of that enthusiast, that connoisseur that's
Mhm.
really that's a regular consumer that's wanting to explore the depths of that product. And whether that's wine, coffee, beer, chocolate, etc., you generally see in those markets, it's about 10 to maybe 30% of consumers are that enthusiast type of consumer.
Okay.
The vast majority of the market, as you're saying, and we saw this at Headset, certainly. Like it's the majority of the market is purchasing value products, and that's great. Like that's in every industry. That's generally how it goes. It's certainly no different in cannabis. The data looks relatively similar across all of these industries. Again, give or take in that 10, 20, maybe 30% bucket. And so for us, what we're seeing is a little bit different because again, the ethos of our platform, we launched it being more of an enthusiast, a connoisseur platform because we have to, because this is very new for the industry. You don't just go from zero to 100,
Yeah.
right? These are, again, like if you look at Yelp, Yelp was only in San Francisco proper for the first year of their business. Before you started to see Yelp roll out across the country, before consumers were wanting to partake in going to restaurants and then reviewing restaurants or providing their opinions, that was years down the road before all of that starts happening. So what did Yelp do? They launched their Yelp Elite program. What is
Mhm.
that? Well, that attracted all of the regular people that were within their platform that were going out and reviewing restaurants, and they incentivized them to go review more restaurants by giving them access to events that they were doing, or going to restaurant openings, whatever kind of incentive that may be. And then over several years, then you start to see that culture of appreciation develop. But this just is a long arc. And again, that's why I reference, wine, where that took 40 years for consumers to really appreciate wine. If you look at craft coffee and third wave coffee, that was like a 10, 12-year arc. Craft beer, same thing, 10, 12-year arc. Plus, before that, consumers really started to appreciate connoisseurship. So for cannabis, like this is going to be a long, this is a long journey for us. But again, that's our thesis here. Like give consumers this information and that arc will expedite.
Great. I saw someone had raised their hand earlier. You can just, if you have a question, you can just type it in. There's like a little Q&A thing. If you still have a question, I'm not sure if you still do. Maybe it was already answered. But okay. So then what is next? I mean, obviously you've got a lot of stuff going on this year. And I have, been building software almost my whole life, so I know that software is never done. And in your case, it's not just a piece of software, you're building a community and a rating system and like constructing a framework, right, that just didn't really exist. To the extent that you want to share, what kind of things are coming up next?
Well, New York is the next thing for us. So, we've expanded with our judging team. So we assembled that team, which we took a lot of time to assemble that team and really find a diverse group of experts. And so the next thing would be then to launch Budist in the New York market, where we're consistently rating and reviewing products and then hosting our events like we do here in California. So that's next. That'll be coming in the new year. And then our goal is just every year, just continue adding in more states, building out that team of experts in each market that has that subject expertise. And then eventually, of course, like being able to purchase through the app. There's a very big vision here, and it's very much
Yeah.
just kind of brick by brick. I think for all of us entrepreneurs in this industry, it tends to move a little slower than I think we would like, but that goes with the territory. We're in a new space that's evolving and changing very quickly in a lot of different ways, but maybe not pushing forward from a policy perspective as quickly as we would like. But for us, that's the next step. It's launch new markets, get more consumers involved in the community, and then hopefully, be national within the next, 5-year period, and then allow consumers to purchase through the app is really, going to be the long-term goal there.
Yeah, that all makes sense. Um, and then I guess we're running up on time, but there's a couple other questions. How are you getting users? Like how is that discovery mechanism? Like what channels are you going through to do user acquisition?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it is we're very active on social. Like a lot of this is very grassroots in terms of how we're going about customer acquisition. Like you, came from the days where companies and apps were spending 50, 100 millions of dollars per month acquiring users. Well, we're a startup. We're certainly not in that space where any of us as an industry can be spending that kind of money to acquire users. Nor do I think that at this point you just got to be really cognizant of kind of where the budget is going. So for us, this has been entirely organic. Like it's a lot of the brands are sharing about this on social. Our Buddists are sharing on social. I'm very active on social. All of the events that we do and partnering with MJ Biz, with the State Fair, all of these things are just really providing an incredible amount of exposure for Buddist. And so that all of our customer acquisition has really been solely organic, which has just been incredible to see and just a testament and a proof point that people want to be a part of this and we're not having to spend, thousands, tens and thousands of dollars to get them into our ecosystem.
Great. That's fantastic that you can do it that way. And especially the, event driven, getting to be involved with people in person is great.
Yeah.
Now are you a practicing Buddhist yourself? Do you write reviews?
I
Are
I
you
I
model
write
out?
yes, I write reviews as a community member. I'm not a Buddhist. By default, we just, I think it's really important just to be as unbiased. And truly, if you go through and you look at like who this group of individuals are, I mean, it's just undoubtedly some of the most trusted people in our industry who have really been out there for many, many years sharing their expertise. And not that I'm not one of those people, I'm very passionate about the plant. But I think it's important just to really maintain an unbiased ecosystem. And so I'm just sharing my expertise as a general consumer and community member. But I like to get involved and kind of help host some of the events and the sessions when we do in-person tastings. I love being a part of that process and putting my Gangier practice to good use.
All right. That's great. So now I'm going to ask you for some recent products that you've seen, maybe something that's newer to market. What are a couple of the products you've reviewed recently that you liked a lot that you would rate, high?
One of the last products that I reviewed was No-Till Kings. And No-Till Kings is an indoor living soil producer that's based out of Long Beach, California, and SoCal. Founded by two friends in the Prop 215 days. So they've been growing together for many, many years, over a decade. And I'm normally a sun-grown flower lover. Like for me, my top of the top, and without there being any bias, which hopefully people will see with my own reviews, we got to take the bias out of it. But I do like what I like. And for me, I'm a big Emerald Triangle sun-grown flower lover. But with No-Till Kings, there's quality regardless of the production method. And so for me, that was one of the products that really stood out, one of the producers, because it's indoor living soil, which if you haven't seen an indoor living soil cultivation, it's just really cool to see that within an indoor ecosystem, to see cactus and plants and there being worms and just a whole ecosystem that's just contributing to that environment. It's really, really cool to see, and you taste it in the product. So Jacapulco was one of the last strains that I reviewed from No Till, and it was just lights out. I mean, it was just firing on all cylinders. It's the aromas were very complex. Flavors, I was picking up multiple notes, three different notes from those flavors. The visuals, it's just so trichome dense, just perfectly trimmed buds. I look for things and then the experience, of course, was a clean high. For me, I like a sativa leaning high, something that's uplifting, gives me some energy, creativity. And it was just firing on all of those cylinders. And that's what I look for when it comes to product quality. Is it something that is really well-rounded and balanced and that has that complexity and the intensity to it? And it's just a product that you'll just remember and it stand out. And then also just knowing the story behind it. So for me, love No-Till Kings. I think they're just doing great work. And yeah, that's the fun part about this is really to explore the depths of it and to pay attention. It's crazy how like again, for me as just a longtime consumer, it really wasn't until going through the Gangier program that I started to pay more attention and have the knowledge of what it is that I'm looking for. And when you go through the Gangier program, there's like 50 different data points that you're assessing when it comes to flower. And so it just having that knowledge and being able to put that to good use, it's just really fun. You get to go down a whole rabbit hole.
Yeah, there are certainly some perks to the job. Um, well, great. I'll have to check that out. No Till, that's the name of the brand, No Till Kings.
Yes.
All right. Great. Well, we're up on time now. I appreciate you taking the time today to talk about Buddhist. It's very exciting to see it come to fruition and be out there and doing well. So congratulations on all of that. Um, if someone wants to get a hold of you to talk about Buddhist, maybe a brand, what's the best way for someone to get a hold of you?
Yeah, I mean, hit me up on any of the channels. I'm very active on LinkedIn, so you can certainly just shoot me a message there. You can email me at jocelyn@budist.com. And social, I'm happy that I got my personal Instagram account back after being locked out of it for 2 months. So you can hit me up on social at Jossie Bossy. And yeah, or reach out on our website. There's all of the channels and ways you would get in touch. I try to be very responsive. It is a very busy time, so my response rates are a little bit slower than normal, but I generally get back to everybody. And the whole way that we're making this work is through partnering, and it's through partnering with mission aligned companies. So if you like what we're doing, and thank you, Jake, for just giving us a platform to really talk about Budist, because we're so passionate about it. Our whole crew, everyone who's helping build this is just so passionate about this. So if you're one of those people that wants to get involved in any capacity, hit a sister up. You know where to find me.
Great. Well, thanks, Jocelyn. Have a great day, and I will see you in Vegas.
All right. Looking forward.
All right. Cheers.